As the rain pours relentlessly over the city, an unsuspecting girl, Emmy, rushes through the deserted streets towards her school. Little does she know that her seemingly ordinary life is about to be disrupted by a chilling encounter with a shadowy figure whose sinister intentions will change her life forever. As she loses grip of her umbrella in the storm, a terrifying reality unfolds, one that will test the boundaries of courage, justice, and the fragile hope for a future in the wake of an unimaginable tragedy. What follows is an unrelenting quest for truth and healing, leaving one to wonder just how far a family will go to rebuild their shattered world. The story opens with the image of a kite flying aimlessly over the city, carried by the wind. Emmy, an 8-year-old girl living in this city, is very bright for her age. After school, she meets her friend Peter, though they don't get along well and often argue. That day, Peter leaves without her. Emmy returns home, and the next morning, while getting ready for school, she asks her mom to help tie her hair, but both her mom and dad are too busy with work. Despite loving Emmy dearly, they rarely have time for her. Emmy readies herself and sets off to school in the pouring rain. Her mother offers to drop her off, but Emmy insists she can get there in just 3 minutes by running. Her mom advises her to take the main road, as it's safer. Emmy runs through the rain towards her school, but soon, someone is watching her from a distance. The kite, once flying free, now lies soaked on the ground. The man picks up the kite and approaches Emmy. He compliments her umbrella and asks if he can share it. Emmy, in a hurry, declines, looking towards the school, which is still far away, and realizes the streets are empty. She turns around, but there is only silence. Moments later, Emmy's broken umbrella is seen lying on the ground, along with her scattered belongings, her shoes, bag, and other items left in an isolated spot. Emmy somehow manages to call for an ambulance on her phone, which arrives to take her to the hospital. The situation quickly escalates into a serious case. When Emmy's mother arrives at the hospital and sees her daughter's condition, she collapses in fear. Emmy has sustained severe injury. She had not only been brutally assaulted, but nearly killed. Though she is still alive, her condition is critical. The doctors inform her parents that she needs surgery to remove parts of her intestines, both large and small. After the operation, the doctor explains to Emmy's father that they had to remove her large intestine and anus, resulting in the need to install an artificial anus in her body. Emmy will now have to live with an ostomy bag for the rest of her life due to the actions of the man who violated her. This once happy family is now completely devastated. When Emmy wakes up, her father visits her, and Emmy, in her innocence, asks why he didn't go to work that day. Her father, with a heavy heart, tells her that work no longer matters. Emmy pleads with him to catch the bad man who caused her so much pain. Despite her young age, Emmy is remarkably intelligent and aware of what has happened to her. As she drifts back to sleep, she hopes that justice will be served. Emmy's father, heartbroken, leaves her hospital room. Soon, he learns that the police have identified the man responsible for the crime, but there is a catch: the police need Emmy's statement to proceed. When Emmy's father shares this with her mother, she is overcome with rage. She cannot believe they would ask their daughter to relive such a traumatic event, especially when she has already endured so much. The whole situation begins with Emmy's mother and father getting into another argument. This clearly shows that both of them are mentally unstable. Because of this, a female police officer tells Emmy's father to go home and bring Emmy's toys. Emmy's father is surprised by the request, but the officer explains that Emmy's psychiatrist instructed her to do so. Emmy's father goes home and grabs her favorite cartoon character toy, then returns to the hospital. At the hospital, a female psychiatrist, who is physically disabled and unable to walk, arrives to begin treating Emmy. Emmy's father hands over the cartoon toy to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist tries to help Emmy regain some sense of normalcy. When Emmy starts to calm down, the psychiatrist begins asking her questions, and everything is being recorded. Emmy is shown a series of photographs of different people, and when she sees the face of the person who hurt her, she closes her eyes. The psychiatrist immediately realizes that this is the man responsible. Emmy is then shown smaller photos and asked to identify who among them is the attacker. With great difficulty, Emmy points to the photo of the man who harmed her. With this, the police have enough evidence to arrest him. Before leaving, the psychiatrist tells Emmy's father that Emmy will need both physical and emotional healing, and that her recovery will require the support of her family. She also mentions that both Emmy's father and mother need therapy as well, and hands him her business card, telling him to call her whenever needed. Emmy's mother becomes furious and accuses the psychiatrist of planting ideas in their minds, angrily returning the card. Soon after, the police arrest the man who assaulted Emmy, and the case gains widespread media attention. When Emmy's father hears about the media coverage, he rushes to the hospital to protect his daughter from the public frenzy. As he transfers Emmy to another room, the media follows him inside, but he picks up Emmy in his arms, along with her glucose bottle, and rushes up the stairs. Meanwhile, Emmy's mother collapses, as she is also pregnant, but Emmy's father manages to get Emmy into another room. Once there, Emmy asks her father, "Have I done something wrong?" Her father assures her she hasn't done anything wrong. While tending to Emmy, her colostomy bag starts to leak, and when her father tries to fix it, Emmy has a severe post-traumatic stress episode, remembering the assault. She becomes completely agitated, and at first, her father doesn't understand why, but he soon realizes that she's reliving the traumatic experience. Heartbroken, he steps back, overwhelmed by the situation. Later that evening, Emmy's father visits her again, but Emmy is now completely covered under a blanket. He tells her that her mother is unwell and can't visit her at the moment, but she had told him that Emmy will soon have a sibling, a younger brother or sister. Emmy doesn't respond or remove the blanket from her face, which deeply saddens her father. He understands that the incident earlier has caused Emmy to distance herself from him, and it breaks his heart. He tells her that he'll be outside if she needs anything, and leaves the room. Meanwhile, the hospital bills are piling up, and Emmy's father doesn't have enough money to pay them. He calls a friend from work who had previously helped Emmy and continues to offer support. His friend reassures him and tells Emmy's father not to worry about taking time off work, showing how much he cares. Finally, the day of the trial arrives. The man who assaulted Emmy is brought to court. When questioned, he denies everything. He claims that he worked overnight at a construction site, then drank alcohol and went home to sleep, saying he has no knowledge of the crime. Despite this, there is overwhelming evidence against him. Emmy's blood was found on his clothes, and the dirt from the crime scene was on his shoes. The criminal tries to claim that his shoes were stolen, and the police are framing him. However, one of Emmy's father's friends, who is also present, hits the man with a shoe, calling him inhumane for what he did. The police then take the criminal away. Emmy's father returns to the hospital and notices that a group of people in cartoon costumes are keeping Emmy entertained. Emmy is delighted by this. It turns out that these people are her mother and her mother's friend, and a nurse, all dressed up as part of a plan suggested by the psychiatrist who is handling Emmy's case. Emmy's father is aware of the high cost of renting these costumes, and when he goes to pay for them with a credit card, he is told that renting a single costume for a week costs $350. Unable to afford it, he asks if they offer payment in installments. Seeing his situation, the costume supplier generously offers the costume for free, saying that he can return it when they are done. The costume is a character called Coco Monk. Emmy's father puts on the costume and goes to see her. She is overjoyed and immediately hugs him, putting her own Coco Monk doll around her neck. The next morning, the psychiatrist talks to Emmy again. They have a long conversation, and the psychiatrist mentions that school is about to reopen after the summer holidays. She asks Emmy if she would like to go back to school, but Emmy says no. She fears that all her friends already know what happened to her, which makes her hesitant to return. The psychiatrist gently asks how she feels. Emmy opens up, saying that because of her, her parents have been unable to work, and her treatment is costing them a lot of money. She feels guilty about it, even though she misses her friends at school. She adds that every night, she prays that when she wakes up, everything will be normal again. But every morning, nothing has changed. Emmy recalls how her grandmother used to say she wanted to die, something Emmy never understood before, but now she feels the same way. The emotional wounds Emmy carries are deep and will take time to heal. When Emmy's parents arrive to take her home, she still refuses to look at her father. To make her more comfortable, her father puts a curtain between them in the car as he drives. On the way home, they pass the place where the tragic incident happened, and Emmy starts feeling sick. Her father drives quickly to get her home, but as soon as they arrive, Emmy gets out of the car and vomits. Outside her mother's shop, Emmy finds notes written by her friends, including Peter, filled with kind words of encouragement. This lifts her spirits a little. The next morning, Peter visits Emmy's dad and tearfully tells him that if he had gone with Emmy that morning, the terrible incident would not have happened. His father reassures him that it wasn't his fault. Emmy receives numerous greeting cards from her friends, which helps her regain some confidence. The next day, her aunt takes her to school, but Emmy feels self-conscious because she is wearing a colostomy bag for her waist, and she worries about what the other kids will think. Her friends watch her with curiosity, making her nervous. Just when she starts to feel uneasy, her father shows up again, wearing the Coco Monk costume. This cheers her up and gives her the courage to enter the school with her aunt. Emmy's father secretly follows her to school every day, making sure she doesn't feel alone. He even advises her teacher to keep her away from male teachers, knowing how scared she is of men after the trauma she's been through. To further support her, he brings her a special waste bag filled with chocolates. That way, if the other children ask what's in her bag, she can say it's for chocolates, preventing her from feeling embarrassed about her medical condition. Her father's love and thoughtfulness help Emmy feel more secure as she returns to school. The next day, Emmy's friend asks her what she's carrying in the bag around her waist. She tells him it's filled with chocolate and even shares some with him. Emmy and Peter walk home together, with her dad following them at a distance, entertaining her to boost her confidence. Eventually, Emmy realizes that it's her father inside the Coco Monk costume. She tries talking to Coco Monk, but the character doesn't respond. Emmy then goes to her mom and asks if her dad is the one inside the costume. When they take off the mask, they see her dad, who is drenched in sweat from the heat inside the costume. Emmy wipes the sweat from his face, and the emotional distance between them is finally gone. Soon after, Emmy's dad receives a call informing him that the case against the rapist is weakening. The rapist is claiming to be physically and mentally unwell, and that he was drunk on the morning of the incident. He's filed a petition, and the video testimony they recorded of Emmy has been dismissed, meaning Emmy will have to appear in court. Her father knows that this will be devastating for Emmy, as she won't be able to face the man who hurt her. Determined, Emmy's dad visits the rapist in jail. The rapist tells him that if he committed the crime, then he doesn't deserve to live, saying that only an animal could do something like that. But moments later, he suggests a compromise, claiming that once he's out of jail, he'll earn money and give Emmy's dad whatever he asks for. Emmy's father quickly realizes the man is lying and remembers everything about that day. The rapist then threatens him, saying that if there's no compromise, he'll get out of jail soon and do the same thing again. Furious, Emmy's dad loses control and starts smashing a chair against the glass separating them. The day of the court hearing arrives, and the rapist is brought before the judge. Emmy is also called to testify and identifies him. However, despite her testimony, the judge sentences the rapist to only 12 years in prison. The people in the courtroom are outraged. Emmy's father, who had already decided that if the punishment was too lenient, he would kill the man, lunges forward to attack him. Emmy, having overheard her dad's plan earlier, grabs onto his leg, crying and pleading with him, "Dad, let's go home." Her father, moved by her words, stops, hugs her, and calms down. Some time passes, and it's revealed that Emmy's mother has given birth to a baby boy, Emmy's brother. Her dad says he had already chosen a name for him. Peter, Emmy's friend, is there too, and they joke around just like they used to before everything happened. On the surface, things seem normal again, but the reality is that Emmy still leaves school early most days, unable to fully escape the trauma. Even though her brother's arrival has brought new hope, happiness, and a sense of purpose into her life, the emotional scars remain deep. This story reflects the enduring pain that some people carry with them forever. No matter how much joy or comfort they are given, or how much the world tries to make them whole, no one can truly understand or feel the depth of what they've been through. The trauma stays with them, a shadow they can never fully escape. So this is the conclude of the story. If you like this story, then see another videos. Goodbye.